welcome back to this week's episode of the Breakdown Podcast YouTube edition, where we are going to be covering Superman
Lois and Clark.
and Lois.
There you go.
Got it this week. And
there you go. We'll wait for you to call it Smallville.
Yeah. Oh man, don't get that started, because that might actually happen. But yeah, we are on season 1, episode 5. But before we get into this, please, if you would, be sure to reach down there and tap that little like button. Give us a thumbs up. Write us a little comment and ding that bell to make sure that you know when we post our next video. Corey and I are hot and heavy into doing this, and each week we are putting on new videos exclusively for YouTube, just for our listeners and our followers, so you guys can find out our reaction for not only this, but also for Masked Singer. So be sure to check that out. Corey, where can they find you online?
You can just search for me on Twitch, twitch.tv/NKOGonzo. Just look for that. I'm on there every now and then, playing games. And but most often you'll find me on Vic's Twitch. That's twitch.tv/MillerKing_51, where we do the show 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. And this week, currently we're talking The Flash and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, plus any other random things that may come up. So stop by, hang out with us, and join the fun conversation. So, Vic,
it's that time.
Is there anything? I think it's that time.
Let's break
this down.
All right, sir. So this week's episode of Superman and Lois, we are back in Smallville. They are preparing for the first Harvest Fest without Ma Kent, who apparently was the heart, soul, and lifeblood of Smallville, which obviously we already knew, because the name Martha just invokes so many feelings that it stops battles between titans.
Why'd you say Martha?
So, with Martha gone, the whole town is preparing, and basically what they do is everyone in Smallville gets together, and they get all of their trash out of their garages and out of their barns and out of their basements, and they box it up, and they take it to the town hall, and it gets separated and sorted to be given out to anyone in need. So it's a pretty cool, that's not a bad way to do things. If someone needs help, that's a good way to do it. And I guess, do you say the Kent family? Yeah, I guess the Kent family is preparing for that. And they're going to, we're going to find out more about how the Harvest Fest works and what's going on there. Also, with that said, the Kent boys are returning to school again. The Harvest Festival comes with a carnival, and they're all making plans on what they're going to be doing for the evening. And what's her name? I can't think of her name right now. The daughter. The girl.
Lana's daughter?
Yeah.
We're going to call her Lena, because I don't know either.
We're so bad about names.
Yes.
You should look up the cast list.
Please don't take that. Don't hold that against us. We forget everybody's names. We end up making up.
It is not personal in
especially
any way, shape,
me.
or form.
You get to be this age, you kind of forget.
Yes, it is not personal. So Lana's daughter actually asks Jordan out to go to the festival with her as a date, because that's what friends do. A throwback to last week's episode where they were talking about them just being friends and friends doing things together. So they're planning on doing that, and that also Jonathan's girlfriend is coming in from Metropolis to visit for the first time. So he's super excited. Everybody's jazzed. Everybody's ready to go to the carnival and have some fun. Unfortunately, Jonathan's long-distance relationship does not work out, and she calls and gives him the Dear John a cell phone call and says, I'm not coming. Like hours before she's supposed to be there, she's like, yeah, I'm not coming, because we can't do this thing, and I don't want to be in a long-distance relationship. So that sends Jonathan off into a kind of a downward spiral for the entire episode. And from his standpoint, basically, he just hates everything about Smallville now. Where he was the champion of staying, he is now the proponent of getting the fuck out of Dodge and making their way back to Metropolis. And honestly, it's teenage love. I get it. it's his first girlfriend. He's been dating her for over a year or whatever at this point. So he was in love, and
yeah, I can't speak on it.
He got mad. I get it. And so he goes off. He literally, after they get home, he completely goes off on Clark. And Clark, about how he hates this place and yada yada, and all of that vitriol that he has throws Clark back into a few flashbacks of him dealing with his mom when he was 18, and how he hated being stuck in Smallville because it was Smallville, and he wanted more. And that's a continued kind of theme throughout the episode. We get to see more and more of his interactions with her. We get to see one of the first interactions of him as a superhero. We kind of look like Kick-Ass. He put on a ski mask, a balaclava, and he runs out there and he's like, "You're stealing from this place. Put it back." He's like, they're like, "We didn't steal anything." He's like, "Yes, you did. Put it back."
No, the best line that came out of that scene was as the crooks are loading up the boxes, they say, "We got some high-end stuff here," and it's a big tube TV. Which at the time may have been true, but now it's like, that's a relic.
It took like 2 guys to carry it just to get it into the truck. We're just carrying like a 55-inch TV under our arm now. So exactly. Yeah, but they dated back, and he was having those flashbacks. So that's some of the interactions he had, and Ma Kent was talking about, you can't just run around doing this. You're not going to be a vigilante, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, well, and she realized that, like, maybe, and he was like, I can't, this small town thing's not for me. I need to see what else is out there, blah, blah, blah. So that kind of rolls out into there. We get to a visit back from the mother, who was almost murdered by Subject 11. In the hotel room. He tried to choke her out with a telephone cord, because those things are so strong that would work. I never understood that trope. Grab a telephone cord and wrap it around someone's neck. You can break a telephone cord like that. Like, I never understood why that's the chosen weapon of demise. But she survived.
Probably because nobody's really tried it, so they just assume that's the way it works.
Well, she survived thanks to Superman, intervention of Superman and Lois. And she comes in, and along with her is her missing son, who, strangely enough, got dinged in the head by something, lost his memory, and ended up 3 counties away. And just happened to make it back right after the big brouhaha brought out by Lois comes about. I'm like, that's awfully convenient that he just happens to come back and doesn't remember almost anything as to what happened to him, just that he ended up 3 counties down, and they helped him get his memory back in what, a week, out of nowhere.
He doesn't remember the phone call that he made,
right? And
so obviously Lois and the other newspaper lady, they're both not buying the story, so they leave. And the mom and the son end up leaving, and they end up going to that basically that
it's like a town hall drop off
kitchen. He ends up inadvertently burning the place down because he's got laser vision.
So here's my thing: they're not from that town. They don't come from that town. That mom and the mom and the kid are from a couple towns down. They're not from Smallville. She came there because she knew Lois was there and could probably help her. But she's from like a couple towns over. But they just happen to show up with a bunch of clothes that I guess were supposed to be his at one point to donate to this thing. I'm like, okay, well, maybe, whatever.
Yeah, that didn't really make a lot of sense to me either.
They needed a reason to have him be inside that building. But he goes in and he gets on his burner phone, which is an old Nokia flip phone, which I thought was kind of funny. Because I think I actually may have had that phone at one point. But he goes in and he's like, he calls Lady Farr. And he's like, I Laura Farr. And he's like, oh, my head hurts. I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you just got to get through it. And as he's talking to her, his premature heat vision erupts from his eyes, and he starts the entire building on fire. And the whole place basically burns down. They lose all the donations. He runs off. And everyone thinks that he's. I think everyone thinks he died in the fire. Honestly, is what I think they think happened. But in the interim, the firefighters show up. They're trying to put out the fire. One of the firefighters, who's a good old boy of Smallville, gets stuck in the fire, suffers smoke inhalation, and as he's being saved by Lana's husband, Clark comes in and he uses his frost breath to blow out all the flames, put out the fire.
No, wait, it's fire extinguisher breath.
Oh, is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he blows out the fire and saves both of them, but the guy still suffers enough damage that ends up in the hospital in pretty bad condition, which throws Lana's husband over the rail, and he goes out drinking, and then we're back to the old.
He's also slightly confused too about the way it just stopped.
Right. But I mean, because things happen.
Because
fire's a fickle mistress. Anyway,
well, let's be honest.
Have you watched Backdraft?
Honestly, no.
Really? I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
I never had.
But yeah, so he comes out of it. His buddy is hurt, and he goes out drinking. And of course, they're supposed to be getting together to go to the festival, and he leaves Lana to do everything. So the girls are all ready to go when he comes in, and he's like, "Oh, I need something to eat. I'm gonna take a quick nap." And she sends the younger daughter and mom out, and of course the older daughter is left trying to deal with his stupid. So,
well, before while they were still putting the fire out, or they were still on the scene, Lois showed up as well too, trying to get a little answers, but at the same time trying to act like just a concerned citizen.
Right.
And I think she got a little bit of information, and I think at the same time too, he is starting to question some things. Now, afterwards, in the part when he went home that you just mentioned, he never really made mention of that.
Yeah.
But I tend to look at the actors' faces too when they're being told stuff, whether it's intentional or not, in certain movies or shows. I saw a look of puzzlement on his face because of the questions. Like, maybe he's starting to see the light, see something's not right here, and with what's with the one dude.
I mean,
the big guy.
Big guy. What do you mean with Superman?
No. The guy with the money.
I
forget his name.
Well, yeah, but so. He again, I see what you're saying there, but that kind of comes into play with a little bit later on. But yeah, so he gets home, he's just basically just pissed drunk, and his the older daughter ends up staying with him and trying to get him to eat something before she heads out for the festival, because he's not gonna go. He's literally just like putting a blade into the back of his family life at this point, because either he's a confirmed drunk, or he's just being a jerk in general. Whichever way it is, he stays home. They all go. She meets up with Jordan, and they kind of start having a good time. She headed him off of eating the chocolate covered bacon, which by the way is delicious. I'm just saying. And they head for the elephant ears. In the meantime, Jonathan, who wants to drown his sorrows, goes and starts drinking with some of his football buddies, and that does not end
here
well.
we are again. Yes, I know this happens in high school. I'm not stupid. I've been there. But the fact that they continuously are promoting underage alcohol consumption is, I don't know. Is that me getting older?
I think it is, slightly concerning. It's literally in everything. There's nothing. There's no TV show or sitcom or something that doesn't deal with teenage drinking in every episode. It's just.
But it's always like, oh, you need to stop that, and it's like that's not the way that happens in real life. Trust me.
Right. It's not just like I'm going to go out and drink. But mind you, this isn't the first time he's done it, because every time they've gone to a party or something in that town so far, there's been drinking. So it's not like it's a It's not it's not like it's not a thing that's been going on the entire time. It's not a surprise. He's just taking advantage of the situation of the fact that like his buddies have alcohol, so he's going to actually partake this time. Whereas you didn't see him drink a whole lot in the other peer pressure situations. In this one, because of him being upset and sad about the breakup, he partakes in that that whole process. So
I think they've drank in every episode. Because in episode 1, you had the party on the beach.
Yeah, at the quarry.
Then you had the party. Then you had the party last week where the kid broke off the table.
Yep.
Then this, it's just.
But it's if you go back and look at any show you've ever watched, this is not new. It's very condensed because it's in the first 5 episodes, and it's happened every other episode is what it comes down to. Like there's been an instance where this has been a thing every other episode, but he gets drunk and he starts getting lippy, and him and his buddies show up and start talking to Jordan, and dude, look up her name for me while we're talking about this. He gets lippy and starts talking to him, and she gets mad because she already knows. She just dealt with her dad being drunk, and now she's got to deal with Jordan with Jonathan being an idiot and being drunk, and then embarrassing Jordan on top of it. When he comes over, he's like, "Oh, this is his first date," and he's giving him a hard time just because he's wasted and he wants someone else to feel his pain. So she gives him what for, and I think it was very justified that she did it. And she gets him she gets mad at him and sends him on his way.
It's Sarah?
Sarah, that's right. Yeah, that sounds right. So
Okay.
once she has that, she's like, "I'm sorry, I've got to go," and she runs off. And Jonathan is like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, I ruined your date." And of course Jordan's like, "It's okay, man." The one good thing I can say about this is one of the first shows where the siblings aren't like at odds with each other 100% of the time. Like they always try to make it a thing where like the brother and the sister are arguing all the time about something, but these two are pretty cohesive and pretty close. And when it comes to like either helping each other or defending each other when one isn't around. So like when they're yelling at one, the other one's like, yeah, it's fine, but you should probably just pay attention to what he's saying, or like they just kind of take up for each other, and that's kind of refreshing in this kind of show because it's not always a thing. It's really not something that you see a lot. So Lois and Clark show up, and they catch him drunk, and they're like, "What in the hell do you think you're doing? Like, we know you're sad, we know you're upset, but this is not the way to do it." And when they get back to the house, that's when he really kind of goes off, and he's like, "I have a friend, I can go stay with him, and yada yada yada, and I don't want to be here, and this and that." And Clark is like, "Dude, like, I understand where you're coming from. I know you're upset, but you need to cut it out." And he just goes off and he sends him to his room. So I'm like, okay.
Well, meanwhile, while they're there, after they leave, they send them home. They tell them to Uber home.
Yeah.
And
which is very, very today-ish.
Yeah.
Don't take your kids who've been drinking home. Send them home in an Uber while you stay there and hang out, which is fine. But it's just funny. Exactly. It's an interesting take.
She gets a phone call from another newspaper lady, and tells her the lowdown because she yanked the location of that son's phone,
right,
and found out where he's at, and found out he's making out with the head chick of with like I don't know, second in command or whatever.
Yeah, his creepy minion.
Yeah, his creepy minion with the laser eyes, and he's making out with her. And they go inside. He's like, I think I'm losing it or something.
Hold on. Before we go there, Lois was visited by Luther prior to that, though, and we have to do that in order simply because.
Yeah, I was going to mention that and totally got off track. When he was putting out the fire, Luther comes up and talks to Lois, and starts, and then they end up going to get coffee, and because he's lying to her, saying that he's a writer,
he's an investigative
and
journalist, a traveling investigator traveling freelance investigative journalist, and would like to work with her, knowing that there's some weird stuff going on, and he would like to see if he can help her or she can help him. And they exchange cards and everything, and then right after that, that's when the mom she goes over to talk to the other news girl. I can't remember her name now either.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, you're right. Yeah, back up.
Yeah.
Then, so then Lois. So while Lois is talking to Luthor, the newspaper chick is talking to the mom,
right.
And that's where she gets the location of the phone, and gives her the phone back. She ends up going to where this address is, and finds what I had already said.
Yeah.
Then she goes back out to her car. Well, she actually goes inside, which I'm like, that's your dumb move right there. You should have called first.
That's another trope. That's another tropey thing. Like, okay, so you're outside, you're watching them, they're making out. And obviously, I'm pretty sure that this makeout... So, the makeout session is to keep him under control, or do you think that Leslie Lar actually likes this guy?
No, there's no way.
Okay, yeah, that was my test too, but I was like, I wonder what his take on it is, because... It's definitely a control situation. But
yeah.
Like when Chrissy is out there peeping on them, they go inside. I'm like, you have a cell phone that has a high resolution video camera on it. Record them, because it's not going to show, and it's not like, it's all hearsay. Like if you record what's going on, you at least get it on video, and then you take off and like tell Lois. But she calls Lois, and she's like, oh, I followed him to this place and blah blah blah. I'm like, man, so inside of this secret bunker, which I'm assuming is at that mine that they just purchased in Smallville, there is it looks like an MRI machine, but it looks like it's some sort of a machine that's designed to infuse a person's DNA with the X-kryptonite gas that gives them their superpower, their Superman-like power. Superman-esque powers. And in doing so, obviously, she's trying to kind of like give him a power boost, because he's like, something's wrong with the way he's taking it in. But more importantly, we now know why all of these people are disappearing that work for these mines, because they're using them as test subjects. And the job that he was talking about was not working at the mines, but it was the job that they gave him as a test subject in that facility. And where he's going, this isn't right, something's wrong here, blah, blah, blah. That's what it was all about, obviously. And that's why we have all these people missing, but that's also why they sent him back. So right. the power boost does not go well, and Superman ends up intervening. He's
next to Lois as she's getting this phone call and hearing all the details, so he takes off. Yeah, he ends up there. He's like, what is this? And she gives some mumbo jumbo. And then the one dude flies off through the hole that Superman had just made. Superman takes off. They're flying through the air, and he's trying to set things on fire while passing by them, and Superman's just putting them out as he passes by. Coincidentally, Luthor has an RV like he's in Breaking Bad, and it has cruise control and can go wherever he wants it to. I was thinking
more like Ben 10.
Or we could have gone.
So my question is
old school Shazam.
Is it actually an RV, or is it his spaceship in disguise? Because apparently the Alexa that he has in there can drive that thing on its own. So,
he can't drive it anymore because he broke it.
Well, he smashed it off the countertop, but we don't know if he killed it. I doubt he killed it. But it takes over for him as he's chasing down, as Superman is chasing down, I'm going to call him Subject 12, because we have no idea what they actually referred to him as besides himself. But he's chasing Subject 12 down. They're flying, they're basically, obviously the idea behind this whole scene and this portion of the story is to show that the powers that they are giving them rival Superman's. What he's doing is exactly what Superman can do. The only difference is Superman can control his powers and they cannot. So they're they're flying around. They're flying through the cornfields. They're kind of tussling as they're flying. Honestly, I thought it looked good. I thought the whole flying scenes while they're fighting, the corn, being between them and they're duking it out, like, it was well done. I am very, very, very happily impressed with the CGI and the special effects that they're doing for this show. It's very, very good. And as they start getting to their kind of crescendo of the fight, Luthor shows up with some sort of, more than likely, a low-yield kryptonite nuke and launches it at them. And apparently it's designed to lock on to Kryptonians, is what I'm thinking. And he blows both of them out of the sky. And at that point, Superman gets the upper hand, because obviously it didn't hurt him as much as it hurt the son.
Right, yeah.
And as he kind of confronts him, he wants to interrogate him, but instead of interrogating him, what I'm guessing is the equivalent to the Suicide Squad bomb in the neck. His powers just radiate in his head, and his head explodes. He disintegrates.
I think at that point it was just because he couldn't control it any longer.
Yeah, he was overpowered. But yeah, so you overcharge a battery, it'll explode, and that's basically what they did to this guy. She overcharged him, thinking it would fix him, and instead of fixing him, it basically caused him to implode. So he disintegrates in front of his eyes.
And she's like, "Well, we lost another one."
Yeah.
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah, we got a whole mind full of them we can pick from. So, but the thing is Luthor is realizing that Superman is not the only threat. And he realizes that it's not just Superman out there. So maybe what he thinks was the cause of the destruction of his world was not as simple as it seemed. Thus, with that, and I told you 2 episodes ago, I said, I have a feeling Luthor's going to end up becoming like his kind of partner in crime. He's going to help him get through, like, beating Morgan Edge and his cronies. And in doing so, he's going to kind of create a paradox and become a good guy, which is weird. But
now here's something else as well too that we hadn't mentioned, that before he broke his Siri, it was trying to talk to him and tell him, this is not your world.
Yeah.
So there we go. We called that one.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a 50-50 shot, to be honest. And also we find out that he, on his planet, was actually dating or married to Lois.
Yeah. That's a very interesting twist, because the time that he's from is exactly the same time that he's in right now by the looks of things. Because Lois is Lois. So, and it's the current Lois, not like an older Lois or a younger Lois. Like, it's this Lois. It's this time frame Lois. So it's interesting to see that he is, that he's married to her. The question is, like, if this is an alternate, like, Crisis on Infinite Earth, where Lois is a different Lois, but she's still Lois type of situation, and Superman on his world never had Lois to rein him in on some of his crazy, then yeah, of course that Superman could be fucking weird and crazy and probably destroy the planet. But this Superman is not responsible for that. So we'll see where that goes. It is an interesting twist. I did think that was a pretty interesting twist to the plot. We also, one of the final flashbacks that we see is, second to last. Clark gives Jonathan a box. And when he opens, he's like, well, what's this? He's like, the box is the gift, you little jack off. Like, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. It's a gift. It's from me. Your grandmother gave it to me. But he got it originally from her because it had his key to the Fortress of Solitude in it.
Now, to be fair, if my dad handed me a box and said, "This is for you," and I opened up and said, "What is this?" I would do the same thing.
Yeah, but it's got sentimental value. Stop being.
But he didn't clarify that beforehand. Right. He's just like, "This is a present for you." Okay, it's a box.
My mom gave it to me, and I'm giving it to you.
Okay. But Grandma left a bunch of stuff. Can I go grab it and just say that it's for her?
But yeah, so it had the key to the Fortress of Solitude, which is the red crystal that he used in episode 2 when he took Jordan to get his super testing. But I'm not quite sure what that symbolism was supposed to mean. Like, I get that the whole point of it was like that's when she basically said, "Okay, you can go, figure out your life." And I think that was kind of his. It ends up when this happens being his kind of mea culpa. Like, I understand what you're going through. I went through the same thing, but I also realize
I mean, he
now.
didn't explain that.
Yeah, but he's like, but I also realize now that that wasn't the right thing to do. I didn't handle that right, and I don't want you to handle it differently. Is basically what that comes down to. So yeah, it's an interesting run of things. The final kind of portion of the episode after all of the craziness with Luther, like you said, Luther does get pissed. He breaks his Roku box and. He gets mad because he realizes that he wasn't able to stop Superman and things aren't what he thought they were. We go back to the town the next day when they're finishing up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry we weren't able to save all the stuff, and it's going to be hard to replace it, but here's some more stuff." And she's like, "Oh no, it's been taken care of." And they're like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Oh, Morgan Edge wrote us a check to cover all the damages plus replacing all of the goods." I'm like, well, all the goods were used, so how did you evaluate that? Like, what was the number?
Yeah.
It was all people's stuff out of their garage, so like,
how
what was the
convenient.
evaluation? Yeah, but obviously it's just a play to get the town to be more on his side once again, which is going to end up biting them all in the butts as well. And as that's going on, they take they're like, "We have one more thing for you." They take him over to the bench, and they're like, "This, your mom was the lifeblood of this town. Whenever someone needed her, she was always right here to talk to, yada yada yada." And then they show us another flashback of her sitting on that bench after they're like, she's always going to be here. And they put a little plaque with her face on it, her name. And Superman sits down on it, and then Lois sits down on it with him. And he has a little flashback of when the last time he saw his mom before he moved out of Smallville was sitting on that bench. And she's like, "You got to go. Your train's about to come." And he's like, "Oh." And then she's like, "Nope, get going. You wanted to do this. You want to be a man. Now you can be a man. Get on that train, boy." And he walks off, and she just sits there. And I think that, like, the idea was, like, she was there probably every day hoping that he would get off that train and come back. And he never did. Like, that's how I kind of took it. Like, that's why they said she was always there every day. I think that was her going there thinking, like, okay, well, I'm going to be here if he's changed his mind, because he's not going to tell me he changed his mind. He's just going to come home, and I'm going to be here if he walks off that train. So she went there every day. And by being there every day, she was always there to help and talk to the people who needed her. And that's why she became kind of the lifeblood and the heart and soul of Smallville. So it was a rather touching and endearing scene. And Clark and Lois have their little conversations, and they move on from there. So overall, this episode was very good. I've continued to enjoy this series. I think they're doing a very good job of telling the story that they're trying to tell. There has been none of those moments where I just want to stab somebody in the neck with a pencil. And if that happens, 5 episodes in and I don't have any complaints about the way they're doing shit in here, like, it's a good show. Like, and it's very CW, most definitely very CW.
Yeah.
But it's being handled very well from the standpoint of being a superhero show. And being a family-oriented show. They've done much better writing than they did with trying to do the same thing with Black Lightning, which is a little disappointing to me, because if they're able to tell this story like this, why weren't they able to write that story that way on that show? It shows that they half-assed that show, and that kind of upsets me, because if that show was written like this, it would still be on today. Like, it would still be running.
For sure.
But
I definitely think that this is probably dare I say, probably the best one of this universe.
So at least my wife would disagree, because she thinks Arrow is, but I am finding this to be probably my favorite when it really comes down to all of the WC based shows. This is very much my favorite.
CW.
Or CW. Where I keep saying WB?
WC. I don't know. I don't know where you came up with WC.
I don't know. I keep thinking WB because that used to be a thing. But it's definitely worth watching. If you guys have not watched it, definitely pick up on it. Watch our prior videos as a recap to get through it real quick, and it'll catch you right up to episode 6, which will be coming out next week. And of course, we will also be covering episode 6 next week. So be sure to stop by.
We'll be covering every episode.
Join us for season 1, episode 6 of Superman and Lois.
So on behalf of Vic,
That's me.
He's like in one of these other boxes. I'm Corey. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
See ya.